Hey guys, how's it going? It's Sean from the US. So a common stereotype that I often hear about Americans is that we only speak English. And I have to say that this is pretty true. Unless you have parents from another country or you grow up speaking more than one language, most Americans are pretty monolingual. Even now, thinking about my friends from my hometown and my siblings, they pretty much only speak English. Now, most Americans learn French or Spanish in school for a few years. But after that, we don't really practice or speak it very much, so most people forget it. I think I'm the exception in this case, as I love learning and speaking new languages. Let's see what other people from around the world have to say about this topic. Let's go. I also want to say that to those who are using this to practice their English listening, there are both English and Korean YouTube captions for this video, and you can turn them on and off as you please. All right, let's begin.
I am from South Africa. I'm not sure how many people still think it, but every now and then I will still get people who think that South Africa is the middle of nowhere, that we like ride animals to go to school, and that is just safari everywhere, but we do have really developed and built up cities as well.
So it's not true, right?
Well, there are still a lot of rural areas. We're a very, very big country, but people don't ride elephants to school.
Only you.
Just me in my backyard. I have a lion in my backyard as a pet. Thank you, bye.
Hi guys, I'm Paul. I'm from Canada. Now, today Sean asked me what kind of stereotypes are there about Canadians or Canada in general. Well, you know what? I'd say the biggest one is that Canadians are too gosh darn nice. And we like to say sorry all the time. Now, I've traveled a bit. I've had a chance to work both in Canada and Korea, and from my experience, it does seem that Canadians are in general nice, but don't forget, we still have our criminals, we still have bad people, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Canadians have a good reputation when traveling, even to the point that a lot of Americans, when they travel, they'll claim that they're Canadian so they get better service and the people are nicer to them. How's that for a stereotype? So strong, right? Thank you so much for listening.
Hi, my name is Rowena and I'm from Scotland. I'm Scottish Chinese living in Korea, and a stereotype that many people have about Scotland is they all think that we speak like freedom with a really, really strong accent, but that is not true. Scotland has many different kinds of accents and dialects, depending if you're from North Scotland, West Scotland or East Scotland. Another stereotype we have about Scotland or the UK in general is that we all eat fish and chips all the time, and that is not true. Fish and chips is delicious, we all love it, but it is very, very unhealthy for you, and we only have it sometimes as a unhealthy, delicious treat.
Hello everyone, my name is Bart and I am from the Netherlands. So one major stereotype about the Netherlands is that Dutch people are very tall. Me myself, I am 1.97 m, and I really have to agree with this stereotype. I think we're on average the tallest people in the world, our nation. But I never really thought about it until I started traveling to other countries. And when I came here to Korea, I realized that wow, I'm like way taller than so many other people. And I also heard from other people like, oh, you guys are also tall. And people make jokes about it. It's actually quite fun. Every time I come back to the Netherlands, because I'm so used to look over other people, but when I come back to the Netherlands, I see indeed that, yeah, wow, they're tall. I remember one time I went to a concert here in Korea, and I was standing somewhere in the middle, and at some point there was a picture taken from above with a drone, and you saw just one bald white guy standing in the middle, which was me, and behind it there was a triangle of empty space because the people behind me, they couldn't see shit. They were not trying to stand directly behind me. It was fun to see.
Hi, I'm from Germany. I think one of the biggest ones is that we're very efficient, very punctual. And I would have to agree that we are. I think coming here, I was always the one who was there first. When someone said, okay, meet at 12, I was there at 5 to 12. But obviously you can't speak for everyone, but I think generally speaking, we're very on time, we get things done on time, and we do it in an efficient manner.
How do Germans feel when you're late to an appointment?
I think generally tardiness is it's a little bit disrespectful because you're wasting someone else's time, and being on time is just one thing of valuing someone else's time, and I think we're very appreciative of that, and so we're punctual and get things done. Yeah. Bye.
Hi, I'm from the United States. I am also a dual citizen of Ireland, where the majority of my family lives. There are a lot of stereotypes of the US, but a stereotype I hear about often is that we're very, very loud. I'd say it's semi-true. For me, I'm particularly noise sensitive, so I'm not loud, but many of my friends are. So, especially in Korea, that would seem to be true, that we're loud. A stereotype of people from Ireland is probably drinking, that they're very, very heavy drinkers. And that also depends on the person. I have family members who never drink, but I would definitely say that many Irish people do drink. It is kind of a normal thing to do after your day, is to have a pint, and many Irish people can hold their liquor pretty well.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hey everybody, my name is Rich. I am from Wales in the United Kingdom. And one stereotype that our country gets a lot is that everyone in our country can sing. This is not true. I know that for a fact because I cannot sing, and I know many people who are from Wales who cannot sing. I think this stereotype started because in our country we had a lot of churches and a lot of choirs. And our country got famous for choir music. Now, I will admit choir music does sound very beautiful, and there are quite a few choirs in Wales, but it's not a general thing. I will say though, one of the most amazing times I've heard singers was when Wales were playing England in a soccer game, and the whole of the Welsh fans in the stadium, they all sang the national anthem, the Welsh national anthem, and it gave me goosebumps. It was so beautifully done and so passionate. So yeah, that's my stereotype for my country. I don't think it's true, but that's a nice one to have, at least I think anyway.
I'm from Texas. Texas has a stereotype of everyone having good barbecue, and again, that's true. Everywhere you go, doesn't matter if you're in the black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, Mexican neighborhoods, Asian neighborhoods, everybody is barbecuing. Like when I had hair on Saturdays when I go to get my hair cut, there would be a guy grilling barbecue stuff, and whenever we finish, we go to him, we get some ribs, like the really good ribs that you can just pull straight off the bone, just clean off the bone. It was so good. You get some good chicken, you can get some good hash browns, anything that comes with eating good barbecue, we would have that. And we didn't care who you are, where you're from, just as long as your food was good, we love it.
What's something you should never say to a Texan?
But that other states' barbecue is better when it comes to that. Yeah, I never say that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Tasha from Travel and Tash. I'm originally from London, England, and I'm currently living here in South Korea.
A lot of people think that since British people have such an elegant accent, most British people are really smart. Do you have anything to say about that stereotype?
I would say it's largely not true. However, if you go to Cambridge or Oxford or someplace like that, where you have a large concentration of people that attend those colleges, that probably is true in those areas.
Because you know, in Hollywood and like a lot of movies, it's like a smart evil guy, or like any kind of foreign setting like ancient Rome, it's always like with a RP accent. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, it's funny actually, because accents from the UK are carefully selected for TV. Possibly part of it is that there's just not many British people by comparison to North Americans, particularly Americans, right? Because just England is so much smaller, so there's far fewer of us, and maybe that adds to our mystique.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
I was born and grew up in Albania. Now I live in Korea. Well, there might be a lot, but one that I can mention here is that if you have seen the movie Taken, they talk about Albanian mafia there. And to tell you the truth, there is no mafia in Albania, man. If you visit there, you'll be disappointed because the country is wonderful and the people are great. Maybe there are some gangster playing out of Albania, but nothing like that in the country.
So it's very exaggerated in the movie.
I think so.
Are you in the mafia?
I wish I was, but I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think I've got the guts though.
Thank you so much.
It's fine.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Hi, where are you from?
I'm from France. I'd say the biggest stereotype I've encountered would be that French people are bad at English. So that's mainly true for the most part. I met a lot of French people. For the first time I meet them, I recognize the accents, especially in Seoul. I met a lot of French people, and it is true that we French people, we have a bit of struggling with English. We like our language too, like speaking French. Yeah, we managed to speak with other people in the end, I think. It's not a big deal.
You speak English pretty well. How did you learn English?
Thanks. I mean, yeah, in high school and college now, I have most of my classes in English, so I could speak more. I mean, I try to keep the accents, and even what's funny is that some people sometimes don't know I'm French. They don't recognize it. Well, I hear that a common stereotype is that French people are romantic too. It is not always true. That's funny because Korea, I believe the same thing. I mean, it's different culture, man. It's
everyone's different, right?
Yeah. It depends on the people mostly.
Okay.
So.
All right, bye. Thank you so much.
Bye, man.
Hi everyone, this is Stan. I'm a YouTuber from Poland. Okay, for the stereotypes, there are some good ones, some bad ones about the Polish people. Let's start with a bad one. This one comes from Germany, at least per what I've heard of. Some German people think that Poles are thieves, that we like stealing things, but that's an absolutely wrong one. Probably the origin of that stereotype is due to that Poland was not as developed as Germany, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. There was a gap in economic development. And as we were a poorer country, probably Germans thought of us as thieves. But that's wrong. Polish people are hardworking, and if you take a look at the crime rates, they're not high in Poland. So we are not thieves, definitely. There is a stereotype that Polish people are pretty harsh and not friendly towards the outsiders. I think that's probably related to our climate because we have winters, we have, at least before the global warming, we used to have pretty long-lasting winters where snow was falling and pretty long nights during winter times. But if you know a Polish person closer, then probably you're gonna find a very loyal friend and a person who's gonna do everything he can for you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm from Germany. People think that we always drink beer like for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, but we don't. It's not true. It's not true. Also, some people think that we drink beer while we are working and stuff, so no, that's a no-go.
One stereotype I know about Germany is that everybody has no sense of humor, very serious. Is that
yeah,
true?
actually the thing is like German people, they use a lot of like dark humor, so other people think it's weird, but actually like some people are funny but some are just really weird. It's partly true, partly not. Thank you, bye bye.
Hi, my name is Rachel and I'm from South Korea. Well, I've heard from a lot of people that in Korea we get lots of plastic surgeries, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I do think there are a lot of plastic surgeries going on in Korea. However, majority of them are foreigners who are getting the surgeries from overseas. So they are doing the plastic surgery tours to Korea. Korean surgeons are great at what they do, but that doesn't mean that every Korean person gets plastic surgery. Double eyelid surgery is pretty common. I mean, I myself got one. That one is common, but I'm talking about like injecting things and cutting your bones. It's not really common, and it's 100% up to your choice. If it's about your personal happiness, I say it's your decision. Like, who's to say about that? It's up to you.
Hello guys, my name's Javier and I am from Mexico, and the biggest stereotype is we are lazy. Again, we are not lazy, we are very hardworking, we do have jobs in companies, we are educated, we are all over the world, but I guess that we have a negative image on being lazy because again, the movies portray the Mexican as wearing a big sombrero, having some straw in their mouth, and just like taking a siesta, taking a nap and not doing any work. I don't know if you guys know, but Mexico is ranked #1 in the world for the longest office hours. We have the longest working hours than any other country in the world. Korea comes in #2. So I hope you guys learn a little bit more about my country and you steer away from those stereotypes. So thank you and bye-bye.
Hi.
Hi.
Where are you from?
I'm from Austria. One of the biggest ones is definitely our beer. We have really good beer. It's very famous all around the world. And a lot of people wonder if it's actually that good. And I might say yes, I've did some traveling myself, and I've had a lot of people in Austria coming from all around the world trying it, and they agree that it's wonderful beer that just tastes like home to me, and for others it just tastes so much more intense, and I think it's an overall just good experience. Like drinking beer in Austria is also very cultural, so yes, beer. Well, compared to German beer, I think there will be a few, other opinions. But in general, I think it's still better than German beer. And we don't drink German beer.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye.
Hi, where are you guys from?
We're from Turkey. For Turkish people, people say that we like our guests, and that's kind of true. Like we always make huge dinners or breakfast for our guests and to make them happy. And the other stereotype maybe, well, people say the country is kind of dangerous and we shouldn't go to travel there, but to be honest, just the east side of the country is that dangerous. Like west side and the seaside places are really nice, and you can find much nice people. Yeah.
Is there a lot of nature in Turkey?
Yes, so much. Like you can see, I think the most famous place is kind of Cappadocia. So like people go there a lot, and like you can use the hot air balloons, or like in Antalya or Izmir you can enjoy the beautiful sea, or like you can go to mountains. So we have a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We thank you.
Hi there, my name is Jack and I am from Scotland in the UK. A stereotype of Scotland is we are very tight with our money. I don't know where that comes from, but it is true actually. We're so tight with our money. I remember visiting my sister who lives in England, and I was looking at all the store brand foods. I was like, oh, we can get this instead of that, and she said, keep your voice down. Like, people will know you're from Scotland if you speak about being tight with money. And also another stereotype of Scotland is that we are very cold because it's a cold country apparently, you know, like it's a cold dark climate, so the people are also cold. That's not actually true. Back home in Scotland you can strike up a conversation with someone on the bus, at the bus stop, the bus driver, your waiter, anyone, any stranger. Like you can have a good conversation with, and it's not awkward, it's not unfriendly. We're just a very approachable people, and I think that's because the population is so small. So that is some stereotypes about Scotland, and some of them are true.
So there's definitely a major stereotype about Dutch people, and what I hear a lot is that Dutch people are very direct and sometimes even rude. To be honest, as a Dutch, I have to agree with that. I think Dutch people are very direct, they are very straightforward, very to the point, and they like to say what's really on their mind. I think Dutch people do that because it's more efficient and more effective, and they like to have a pure relationship with other people, or they don't want to soften their opinion just for the sake of the other person, because they think it's better for the relationship to be more honest and to say clearly what they really feel. So the other person also knows, okay, this is what I have to do, or this is how our relationship is, or this is what he thinks, and we just don't agree on something. I do have to add that, especially in my case, because I live in Korea, I have to alter my opinion a little bit, because it's just the way things are here. They don't always like other people being direct to them. So I have to adapt a little bit, and it took me some time and effort, especially because at the beginning I really didn't realize that I was like that until more and more people told me like, yo, you guys are so direct. Wow.
It was quite a few years ago that I lived in the UK, but when I did, it was a tradition every Friday to go to the pub and hang out, have a few pints. And it's interesting because I believe that this tradition is something that starts from an early age. Parents usually bring their children to the pub. There are particular pubs that are assigned, and these are children friendly. And as a result, a lot of children and teenagers are raised visiting the pub with their family, socialising there. There's gardens, there's pub lunches, and in the evening a lot of people like to visit after work. It's a social situation where you go there and hang out with friends. And it's interesting because the way that pubs are laid out in England is that it's not just seating. There's counters where you can just stand and you can rest your pint there on the counter, or your gin and tonic, and you know, you can circumvent and talk with different people. You're not stuck in the one chair where you're initially placed or where you initially choose to sit, as is the case in a lot of pubs or bars here. Okay. It's a very social place where you can easily change location to talk with different people.
First Polish stereotype is that Polish people are good at drinking. That's probably partly true because it is us who invented vodka, and Poland is making actually pretty good alcoholic beverages that are world known, like bison grass vodka or like normal vodka, and one of the most expensive vodkas are also made in Poland. So that one is a true stereotype.
And the other thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that a lot of Canadians, we like to say sorry. So we'll say, oh, I'm sorry, but can you do this? Oh, I'm sorry, can I ask you this? I'm sorry. Especially in the workplace, we like to say sorry all the time. And I'd say it is pretty true. Based on what I've seen, we have a tendency to say sorry. Now, I don't know the origin or why we feel guilty about whatever and why we say sorry all the time. The origin might be some religious origin. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I don't know. So yeah, Canadians are famous for being nice and saying sorry. Not bad for stereotypes. All right.
Number 2 is that Mexico is a poor, underdeveloped city that is just in the middle of nowhere in the desert, which is also not true. While there are some cities that are like this in Mexico, it's because they are in the border between the United States and Mexico, so this area is all deserted. So that's why everything looks poor in the desert in a sepia tone. But if you go further south, you'll see Mexico City, which is like one of the biggest cities in the whole world. It's filled with skyscrapers and it's very developed and it's beautiful. If you go further down, you go to the famous Cancun, the paradise. All Koreans know what Cancun is and they all want to go there. There's a lot of honeymoons nowadays there. So it's not just desert and underdevelopment and sepia tones. It's very rich, like culturally, and there's a lot of different buildings and it's very developed. So I don't know why Mexico has that image of not being developed.
All right, thank you so much for watching, guys. Once again, I'm Sean, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.